Hello friends, welcome to It's a Ootsy Thing. I have a confession to make. If I were to gather all of my bread recipes, I would probably have 30 to 50 because I love bread recipes. And I like to try a new recipe pretty much every time I make a new bread. Well, I found a new recipe. This is for whole wheat bread. Now I have made, generally when I make my bread, I do half and half. I do half bread flour and half whole wheat flour. This particular recipe, that's all it's using is whole wheat flour. So what I find is the consistency is a little bit different and it can almost be a little bit dry. So I've not exactly, with the recipe I've been using, mastered how to make it not so dry. So I'm working on that. Nobody's perfect, right? But I found this new recipe and I want to give it a try. I thought I'd bring y'all along. It's going to take most of the day to do this with this particular recipe, but that's okay. I've got the time to do it. So what we are going to do is add a cup of warm water. And when I say warm water, I just get it out of my sink, but it needs to be around 110 degrees. I've made bread enough that I kind of know by feel how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to add that to my mixing bowl. I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of milk that I've heated up to 110. Then I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. And this is active yeast or quick yeast so that I don't have to let it proof. So I'm going to add 2 1/4 of yeast. And I'm going to go ahead and get my mixer going. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of whole wheat flour. Okay, I'm going to let this mix really good, and after it kind of forms a batter, then I'm going to cover it with a towel, and I'm going to let it rise for 2 hours. And the way I do this, I just turn the oven light on in my oven and just set the bowl in there and let it do its thing. We want this to form a thick batter. This is thicker than like a pancake batter, almost like a cake batter. That's what this one is kind of like. Let me show you a picture of it. And I think I've got it mixed good enough that I'm ready to put it in the oven. It's going to go in there for 2 hours just with the light on so that it can raise just a little bit. I am going to scrape down the sides of it to make sure all of it is off of the sides. Okay, it's been 2 hours since YT time, and we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. Okay, we have 3 tablespoons of honey, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter that I have softened. And this just happens to be butter I've churned myself. This comes from a dairy that's not too far from us, and it is the brightest yellow I've ever seen. Once it is churned, it is 100% cream, and it tastes so much better and is so much better for us because it doesn't have anything added. It's just the cream. All right. Now we are going to add, I don't have any fresh lemon juice or any lemons to make fresh juice, so I'm going to do the apple cider, which is 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. We'll add 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to go ahead and get my mixer going. Now we're going to add our other 1 1/3 cup of wheat flour. Okay, our dough is pretty sticky, so I'm going to start adding 1 teaspoon at a time, or 1 tablespoon at a time, some more wheat flour till it isn't quite so sticky where it'll start, and I think 1 tablespoon is plenty because it's starting to pull away from the bowl. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flour my countertop and knead this just a little bit more. And you can do this 2 ways. You could do it in a loaf pan, and you could leave it in this bowl and let it rise again for 2 hours, take it out, knead it a little bit, and put it in a loaf pan. I'm going to skip 1 step. I hope I'm not making a mistake by doing this. I like to make my breads in my Dutch oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knead this, and then I'm just going to put it in here and let it rise for 2 hours and then bake it. So in a way, I'm skipping 1 step. I think it will be fine, but since this is the first time I've done this recipe, I don't know. We're going to find out, though, together. So I've wiped my countertop off real good, and I'm just going to sprinkle some flour down. Take this out of my bowl, and I'm going to knead it. A little bit more than just what my mixer did. This may not be a necessary step to knead it again, since my mixer has already done it. And you may think I'm weird, but I love doing this. I love kneading bread. I don't know what it is about it that I like it so well, but I just love to knead bread. So I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and then I'll make it into a ball and put it in my Dutch oven and let it raise for 2 more hours. It's actually going to be just a little bit longer because I've got to go pick up my 9-year-old grandson, and he's going to spend the weekend with us. So by the time I get back, it'll be more like 3 hours that it has risen, which I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. But you know, you don't know these things until you try, right? That's what I always have told my grandkids. You're not going to know until you try. So step out and try. And that's how I do so much of my baking. I just step out and try. I guess you would call that the School of Hard Knocks. And do you really get a passing grade in the School of Hard Knocks? I don't know. I think I'll have this with supper tonight. Okay. Make sure that's got some flour on it. Now I'm going to put it in my Dutch oven. And I'm going to let it raise. And then the final step, before I bake it, this is what I found interesting on this recipe. I'll brush it with the egg white and then sprinkle some quick oats on it. It kind of will give it a crunchiness on the top. I've never done any bread like that, but I thought it sounded interesting. And you see that in bakeries and things like that, so that's how they do it. So I'm going to let this raise for about 3 hours. Will be time to put it in the oven and have it just in time for supper. Okay, you can see our bread has risen, and I am going to separate this egg from this egg white. Brush the egg white over. Okay, now I'm going to take some of the oats. And sprinkle that on top. And I'll put that in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. All right, I'm ready to turn my bread out on my cutting board. The top seems perfect. I'm going to go ahead and cut into it. Now, I think that if I would have done that second raising like the recipe calls for, it would have been a little bit taller, but I really think it's fine. It's nice and crusty on the outside, looks very nice, and what am I trying to say? It just looks good on the inside. I'm looking for a word. So I'm going to cut this in two. I'm going to put a little bit of butter on it, and I'll give it a taste. Really good flavor. And you can't beat fresh out of the oven bread. But that tastes really good. So, give this recipe a try. Really good flavor. It did take all day to make, but it has still turned out good. So, if you try it, let me know. Let me know how it turned out. We'll see y'all next time on It's a Utsy Thing.